Absolutely. My hunch would be that right now what you're seeing is probably hedge funds.
Yeah.
If they weren't buying it direct, or you have people that kind of do their own management of their brokerage accounts and retirement accounts, and they can go in and buy these things because it's obviously moved the price of Bitcoin, but it's not like trillions of dollars. I mean, we've seen, I don't even know what the market cap of all these ETFs combined is, but it's less than $10 billion. So it's, the grand scheme of things, that's a drop in the bucket still.
Welcome to the Wiser Retirement Podcast. We believe the best financial advice should always be conflict free. I'm your host, Casey Smith, guiding you to financial freedom. Today is my co-host, Robert Swarthout, founder, CEO, portfolio manager at Teton Crypto Capital. Today, we're just going to talk about technology and what's happening in the crypto world. Obviously, Bitcoin is still in the news with the ETFs that have rolled out. They've been very successful. I want to start with something that's not entirely crypto, but in the AI space. So in the AI space, everyone knows about or should know about ChatGPT 4.0, and man, it just makes searching and learning things a little more efficient, right? And then this Bard came out through Google, and Bard
Bard got updated to Gemini.
Exactly. So that's my point. Is that Bard was the first generation. Now they're calling it Gemini. That I have an offer here in Google Workplace to be able to add it to my emails, and it would help me respond and all that fun stuff for $20 a month.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of scrolling through Twitter, and I'm start reading all these things about Gemini, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Basically, DEI is at full force at Google. And so the team that developed this wanted to be and it's not even politically correct. That's not even the right phrase anymore. It's way beyond this now.
Well, they're in California, so it may be politically
correct there,
but nowhere else.
So they're trying to reshape history. So if the image, Gemini will create images
based upon some words you give it.
Yes.
Sentence,
And these images, you would say, people learn very quickly. Hey, draw me an image of the founding fathers.
Yeah.
And the founding fathers, evidently, I had no idea, are Black and Asian.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean,
like, what? What is going on here?
Founding fathers, or if you asked it to draw some images of the Vikings that would have come across, they were all a bunch of buff Black guys. Like, they were pretty racist group.
Right.
They were definitely not Black. It's just sad that you have a relatively or a very small group of people at a technology company that can have this kind of power on society. And this was called out very quickly, and it turned into a game trying to get it to draw a white person. It would not draw a white person.
Which is crazy, because, how much damage was done to the Google brand in all this.
Yeah, I think it was down like 5% the day that it really came out. So, I mean, I don't know what the market cap is, but it's billions of dollars.
How about just truth? Why can't we have AI that just tells us the truth? Why do we
the truth can be very subjective, right? Your truth can be different than my truth.
Or offensive.
Right. Or yes, correct. If you want to believe that Elon is a fighter for free speech, Grok AI that is part of Twitter, kind of not part of Twitter.
Yeah.
Now seems to be a little bit more straightforward. It doesn't seem to be as advanced as ChatGPT or the Gemini thing, but it's an interesting world. And then the flip side, so that was just the Gemini piece. So, but where else is it plugged into Google, or where is that ethos that helped to develop that? Where does it show up?
Yeah.
And, just this morning I saw somebody found out that if you did an image search on Google for stock image photography of theft, it would only show white people. It would not show a Black person. So it had flipped.
That's how you can see a white person in Google.
Right. I'm just like, and what I find ironic is there's a very good chance, because technology is largely white people. I mean, there's some Asian and some Indian people in it, but the team that developed this probably is majority white. Not to say it needs to be a black or white thing, but it just blows your mind.
Well, I just go back to the founding fathers.
Yeah.
That happened. That's real. That's history. We know it's recent history if you
Right.
want to look at it.
Within a week. Yeah.
It's not like what color was Jesus?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Right.
There's a lot of different variations of that, right? But it's how could it generate that? And how would you not know that this was going to be a problem when you launched it?
Yeah. So I had some knee surgery 2 weeks ago. So I've had a lot of time to do reading because I'm on the couch.
Right.
And what I found fascinating about this whole episode was somebody finally asked the Gemini system to describe its thought process or its decision-making process and how it draws what it draws. And it finally basically, gave the formula of being like it adds words like inclusive and all these other words to the sentence that you put in, whether you include it or not.
Right.
And then so now because now the system has understood inclusive means all the things that are showing up that probably shouldn't be showing up in these cases.
Right.
So it's over biased.
Maybe what they were going for is give me a good clip art picture for my website of an working office. Right. So it shows people different diversity. Okay, that's fine. But then it applied that
same formula
to actual historical events where we know actually what people look like.
Right. So it's a sad state of affairs, and Google claims they're working on it. To me, the only way you work on that is you fire the whole team. You have to figure out how to change the culture within the business, because that is not just a product manager made a decision.
Right.
That is an ethos that is admittedly been going on for years at Google, but they finally decided to make it pretty overt. So,
well, here we are.
Yeah.
And this ChatGPT 4.0, does it draw images? I don't know that
so it doesn't do images, but they just showed a demo of something called Sora, Sora, where you give it a sentence and it does a real life video.
Yes.
Which is even more impressive than an image, in my opinion.
Yes. I saw, actually saw that demo. That was impressive. Yeah. Like if you're in the movie business,
right. Movie business, or if you're like
there were like trees blowing and leaves coming off the tree, and the person was like walking down this path, and
you should go check out the video. It's on their website. I think they said draw a 30-second video of a couple holding hands walking through Japan in the spring or something. I forget exactly what it was, but there was like the pink leaves coming from the Japanese maples, and just it looked like real life.
That's version 1.0.
Right. So you can't believe anything you see if officially at this point. So.
Yeah. That's crazy. Well, it just makes you wonder, like, what 90% of people use Google search.
Right.
So it makes you wonder what's being screened when you search for Google search.
Yeah.
When you get to more of the political type things. And,
absolutely.
I mean, from their standpoint, it's a tough job. I mean, if you're trying to show truth and what's actually happening, I mean, there's a lot of people who believe it's a flat earth.
Yeah. I mean, their motto is to organize the world's information, that not to also
opine on
it. I mean, and that's where they've gotten to. So
that's crazy. Well, anyway, it was also a good laugh. We had Robert had a birthday, so we were at your birthday dinner last night. So it was a good laugh on that front.
Yeah.
Technology conversation last night. Well, let's move back to the crypto realm. What's Bitcoin at today?
Bitcoin is at 56,000 and change, almost 57. It has touched 57 today. So a roughly 10% up 24-hour period.
Yeah.
Ho hum.
It was like at 12,000. I feel like a year and a half ago.
Well, it was at 12,000 in November of 22 when the FTX stuff blew up. And we do have that in our notes. The FTX people that, part of that bankruptcy, the creditors, if you had your funds in FTX,
that's right, are going to get
made whole, but in 2022 value, not 2024 value, which is functionally, I mean, if it was Bitcoin, it's up 5x or 4x.
Yeah.
So, they're made whole, but
good win.
Really
good win for the trustee, though. You
right.
can say he got 100% of their money back.
And they got to suck all the money out in attorney's fees. So everybody wins.
Sam's banging his head against the prison cell wall, going, ugh.
So it was, talking about Sam. So people hadn't seen much of him. We're about a month out from his sentencing. That's going to happen in March. But he was, they have those lineups where they'll bring like 6 or 8 people in and say, oh, pick your criminal or who do you recognize? He just was part of the randomized group that brought in.
Yeah.
He looks pretty rough. He was in this first one of those about a week ago. I saw a photo. I'm like, oof. Like prison's not doing him any favors, which is probably
Would that
the
be
point.
crazy if your wallet got stolen and you actually know who Sam is and you're standing there in the line? I'm going,
Right.
Can I talk to him for a minute, please?
Right. Or you had, or on top of it, you had money in FTX and you're one of the creditors.
Yes.
You might be biased. So
he did it. He stole my wallet.
yeah, it's
like literally.
yeah. So,
That's
luckily, if you kind of think back, I mean, 2022 or the fall of 2022 seems so long ago, it's just a year and a quarter away. And at this point, the crypto industry feels healed from that FTX mess. I mean, obviously, if you're a creditor, you probably don't feel that way, but the industry's moved on. It's, the Binance thing has gotten cleaned up late last year. So roughly a year after the FTX stuff, it feels like a new chapter. And I don't know if it's just because the prices are up and people are optimistic, but
I feel like Wall Street's kind of taken over Bitcoin at this point.
Well, crypto used to be like, prior to the ETF launching, it could be crypto was having a good week and then it would have a really good weekend because people at home had free time. Crypto takes the weekend off, just like the stock market now. But
it's still tradable.
It's tradable. Yes, absolutely.
But it's just kind of quiet.
But the prices aren't moving nearly as much, which says to me that the ETFs are having a good size impact on Bitcoin, which obviously trickles down to the rest of the market.
So speaking of the ETFs, just looking at the launch since early January, I mean, crypto or the Bitcoin had a pretty big drop by the end of January. It was down 16% on the year. While at the same time, you're sitting here looking at the S&P 500 at the same time was actually up about 1.8%. Man, you fast forward to February 26 close, Bitcoin's now up 16.8% on the year. The S&P 500 is up 6.23. I'm happy with the 6.23, but then you start looking and go, hey, who's this guy that just blew past me?
Right. And that people love to make that comparison. I make the comparison a lot of times in my newsletters, but at the end of the day, if you rewind over time, this is not a fair fight.
Right.
Granted, it's something coming from 12, 13 years ago, if it's successful, is likely going to have a higher rate of return than the S&P, right? I mean,
right.
Pure law of averages, but it's it's the volatility is certainly higher than even the NASDAQ. But it's just crypto. I often will go and look at my brokerage account. I'm kind of like, it moved 1.5% like that. Right. It didn't move today.
Right.
I'm so used to the crypto numbers. So
with the volatility.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm still in my circle of financial advisors. I don't have anyone using crypto right now, but I'm not sure who the buyers are of the ETFs. You think it's baby boomers?
I saw
individual investors.
I think it's individual investors, but you can't buy it in all the accounts right now. Like Vanguard still says, nope, you're not allowed to buy this, which is just insane. Like,
well, they're working on their disclosures, if I had to guess.
But why did they wait?
Well, Vanguard has never been one that
on the bleeding edge.
Yeah. Yes, they're on the back end. They were one of the last ones to, well, not the last, but they were the last to ETFs.
Yeah. I would love to see the amount of outflows of accounts they've had because people are pissed off they can't buy it. It's probably nothing like material for them.
No.
But it's probably an interesting number. I imagine they're watching it.
Right. They might end up with a Bitcoin ETF. I haven't really talked to anybody there, but it would be like 2 years from now.
Right. And at that point, BlackRock is owns, half of Bitcoin.
Back when everyone was buying commodities, I haven't checked in a while, but they didn't have a commodity ETF back in the day or even a mutual fund.
Wow.
Other than an actively managed one. They had an actively managed version.
Yeah. I guess naively, I just assumed when the ETFs launched, it would just be everywhere. But it wasn't. Obviously, it wasn't in Vanguard. It wasn't in some other big provider. I forget what it was.
The Bitcoin ETF has kind of fallen into the same category as leverage ETFs. And so I feel like that people are like, oh, people don't understand this product, don't understand what they're buying. To me, a Bitcoin ETF is much more clear as to what it is than a leverage ETF.
Oh, absolutely.
Leverage ETFs reset daily. They're more complicated, and some people have gotten lucky, but that's not something that we would ever invest in on this side. But yeah, we're watching. Andrew here, our investment manager, is actually going through the DAC-FP certification program. He's going to be a certified crypto.
I'll have to talk to him about that
blockchain designation here in probably a month or so.
Are you curious why annuities keep coming up as a potential investment option? People are often told that annuities can effectively mitigate investment risks and help secure their financial future. However, annuities often benefit the salesperson and might not be the best choice for you as a consumer. To learn more about the various types of annuities, the negatives of owning them, and better investment alternatives, we have a free ebook on our website just for you. To download our ebook, Buyer Beware, Why Do They Keep Trying to Sell You That Annuity? Simply click the link in the episode notes or visit wiserinvestor.com/guides. Now let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, it's, not to turn this, we're certainly not going to turn this whole thing into a Bitcoin ETF podcast here, but, the volume of Bitcoin that is being bought by the ETFs to satisfy demand for their share creation has been pretty incredible. Like now all the ETFs certainly account for more than 5 billion of value.
Yeah.
People had thought that was like the goal for the end of 2024.
Oh, wow.
Like
We're
we're
there.
2 months out, or no, a month out.
Yeah.
And we're already past it. So where this thing goes, I don't know. But the amount of Bitcoin being bought by the ETFs, depending on which day it is in, ranging from around 4x to 8x the amount of Bitcoin being created by the miners. So that the rest of that has to come from holders elsewhere.
Okay.
So
that would push the price up.
That's supply and demand. I mean, that's very simple supply and demand.
That explains the increase then.
Right. You see a 10% move. And these ETFs they batch everything. They buy at the end of the day. Or sometimes in the mornings or overnight. And you kind of can see that in the price movement, say at 5 or 5:30, kind of watch Bitcoin and it might move. It's an interesting dynamic because it allows an individual that is savvy enough to be a trader to really trade this thing.
Sure.
To not necessarily ETFs, but to trade spot Bitcoin against the ETFs. So I don't know. It's, last Monday when it was it President's Day? The market was closed. Mm-hmm. Bitcoin didn't do anything. Like,
that's so weird.
It's so we had a 3-day weekend. You would have never known the difference. Like,
is that how much volume the ETFs are carrying? That they sway the price that much?
The ETFs on a notional value of Bitcoin.
Because ETFs typically are tracking the asset.
Yes, they're tracking the asset. They're accounting for about 20 to 25% of global Bitcoin trading volume on a daily basis.
Okay.
On an open market day.
So we can.
And that's bigger than any other trader.
Yeah, true.
And
which means you'd have less ability to do price manipulation as that continues to grow, which makes Bitcoin more legitimate in my mind. Right.
And I think that's the reason why Binance kind of got pushed to the side, because they had they controlled like 80% of the Bitcoin market up until they had their settlement with the DOJ back in November. So I think that once they got pushed to the side and kind of got dealt with, whether it was right or wrong, that's a different discussion. But it kind of opened the door for Larry to have his control. So I say that half sarcastically.
All right. Franklin Templeton, are they getting into the game? What's going on?
They filed for an Ethereum ETF.
Oh, Ethereum! I just saw that. Yeah. Okay.
I
thought they were denied. No. Somebody was denied.
I don't think it was them. I think it was somebody else, a smaller name. I forget who that was. It might have been Valkyrie, the one that's shutting down their Bitcoin ETF. But
everybody thinks that there's going to be a Ethereum eventually ETF, right?
I think depending on what you define eventually to mean, eventually I think there'll be the top 20 assets will have ETFs. I think that's where we're going.
I was wondering what the third one would be.
The Ethereum one is interesting because I think it's in most people's minds the next logical one, and I can partially subscribe to that because it's by market cap, it is the second biggest crypto.
Yeah,
but it also has it has this black cloud hanging around it. Like, is it a security? Is it not? The SEC will not say it's not a security, obviously. That's their hammer.
Right.
But a year and a half ago, Ethereum moved from proof of work to proof of stake. And now there's like 3 quote unquote wallet / validators that control over 50% of the voting power of the network. That's proof of stake is about voting. And as part of voting, you get rewards or Ethereum kind of kick back to you. Think of it as interest.
Okay.
Like, is that a security? Kind of acts like one.
Okay, yeah.
Like
in that sense, yeah.
So, I have put in my newsletter, and I guess I can say on here, I think Ethereum is the last big lawsuit the SEC files before we get a clean slate in the SEC and kind of get rid of this mental issue that they have around crypto.
Right.
I hope I'm wrong about that, but it feels like they're working towards that. There's the court case with Ripple still ongoing. It's in the remedies case portion. And most of it has been decided, but there's the small pieces that are not. Like, if anything, you can make the case that XRP should be the second one with an ETF because it has clarity in the courts.
Yeah.
Even though the case is not over with Ripple, but that it's with Ripple, it's not with XRP, the token.
Right.
The judge was very clear on that part, the differentiation. So I don't know. CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, was asked recently on Bloomberg if he would be for a Bitcoin ETF because BlackRock has made some rumblings that there might be one. Larry actually even talked about it.
Right.
And Brad's like, no comment. Okay. You could have easily said, I don't know anything that's happening.
Yeah. Right.
So, and then Larry was kind of wishy-washy on it when he was asked about it, but like, seems like something's there. So I don't know. I think in some ways, any asset that gets listed as an ETF has an advantage over the rest of the crypto market because they have extra liquidity.
Right.
My fund doesn't hold Bitcoin. My phone does hold XRP, so I probably would be biased. I would like to see that.
Sure.
I actually like seeing the Bitcoin one for that matter because it just helps the whole market. But
right.
I don't know. So we're early days. I would say it's a 50-50 shot. We get an Ethereum ETF this year in some form. We already have a futures, so it feels like we've already checked that box. That seems to be the path. Bitcoin had its futures for a good while. Yeah. And then it got its spot one. So
talking about volume, you note here that the trading volume on Bitcoin ETFs ranking the top 10 of all ETFs by volume.
Yeah, if you kind of lump all the Bitcoin ETFs into one big basket, it would be in the top 10 of all ETFs volume and top 20 of stocks roughly on a daily basis, which is again pretty incredible for something that's only been in the market for roughly a month.
Yeah,
so,
right. I mean that's
it shows demand.
No, there's definitely demand, and the volume's insane.
Mm-hmm.
How much is being exchanged? I just wonder who the sellers are. That's
I think it's.
Or you think they're just? It could be all buys.
The price definitely reflects. There's obviously for every buy there has to be a seller. I mean that's just the way it works.
Well, in ETFs that you can create more shares. So this is unique, and where a stock has unlimited,
right,
or has limited. Bitcoin, they just go buy more.
Right, but the
shares,
NAV value
right?
with shares in each ETF is supposed to be reflective of the Bitcoin price. I don't think that they can get terribly out of whack there.
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's true.
It certainly can't be the issuers doing that. Maybe that their market makers are doing that underneath the hood, or like trying to arb some stuff there. But Wall Street people are far more intelligent on that kind of stuff than I ever will be.
And it's about volume. $1 billion worth.
Yes. Yeah. So yesterday, I don't know if yesterday means the 26th or the 23rd, Friday, but yesterday being it was the first day that a single ETF, Bitcoin ETF, had $1 billion in trading volume. So that was the iShares BlackRock one. So kind of, they're by far, they're kind of, I wouldn't say they're pulling away, but they definitely are the leader in the market of those 9 different ETFs.
Yeah. I'm still not seeing it in financial advisors jumping on ship yet. So I think that when you get the institutional buy-in,
mm-hmm.
then there's probably just a whole nother leg up.
Oh, absolutely. My hunch would be that right now what you're seeing is probably hedge funds.
Yeah.
If they weren't buying it direct, or you have people that kind of do their own management of their brokerage accounts and retirement accounts, and they can go in and buy these things because it's obviously moved the price of Bitcoin, but it's not like trillions of dollars. I mean, we've seen, I don't even know what the market cap of all these ETFs combined is, but it's less than $10 billion. So
Yeah.
You know, the grand scheme of things, that's a drop in the bucket still.
I mean, if you believe anything on Google these days, there are non-white private bankers, investment advisors, wealth managers,
Yeah.
and robo advisors buying the Bitcoin spot ETFs. So, I just maybe the people I surround myself were just really conservative and not willing to jump on the bandwagon yet. But I could certainly see it in hedge funds. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Robo advisors, yes, it's already there. But there weren't. But it's weird as though that at Betterment they're not buying the ETF. At Betterment they're buying
spot.
So
they're doing custody somehow. Interesting.
Right.
You know, I saw a meme the other day about how all the millennials can't afford houses. So to be able to afford their house, they're selling all their Bitcoin that they've had for 5 years to the millennial to all the boomers that have the houses that they want.
Or trying to figure out how to afford a nursing home,
right? at a 5,000% profit. So yeah, it's it's just a fascinating space right now because it's all the stuff that's happening around the ETFs is basically the news cycle right now.
Yeah.
Finding other stuff to talk about is a bit of a challenge. It's I don't know if it's because it's early part in the year, but there's optimism that prices are certainly going higher because of the ETFs. There's optimism the prices are going higher because the halving that's going to happen in mid to late April, which will be very fascinating to watch because all of a sudden, say it's a 4x difference that the ETFs are buying on a daily basis, that's going to turn into an 8x overnight because the amount of Bitcoin is going to be cut in half that's being created.
So when a stock splits, people go, "Oh, the stock split. I need to buy more. I keep splitting. I gain more shares." And what the phenomenon there is more psychological because really the stock splits. So your total value doesn't change. The dividends get split too. So your income doesn't change, but people just think, "Oh, the stock split, then I made all this money." And that doesn't really happen. In Bitcoin's case, can you describe it that the same way, or is it just different?
There's no splitting. I mean, the number of shares aren't being changed at all. There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever.
Okay.
So when the price, so the miners, they're functionally doing a lottery. They're doing work, but they're doing a lottery every, call it 10 minutes.
Okay.
And for all the guesses that they're doing right now, they're getting 900, I believe, Bitcoin per block.
Yeah.
That's going to turn into 450.
Which means they're going to have to do twice the output to get the same amount of money?
That's one way to think about it, yes. Or they're going to demand the price to be higher because they're doing the same amount of work to get half as much.
Okay. So that could support price improvement.
It has in the past.
Interesting.
But I was just looking at it. Like the last time this happened would have been May of 2020. And the price that was in May of 2020, it was, I don't know the exact number, say call it 10,000 a share.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the end of the year, and granted, we went into a bit of a bull run there, and the same thing's going to happen, I think, this year. By the end of the year, we were at 30,000, so it tripled.
Wow.
I don't know. And then we have the dynamic of the ETF added on top this time. Like, we're certainly in uncharted territory for Bitcoin, and I think the rest of crypto, because it, whatever Bitcoin does, it kind of stalls. People take some profits that are trading it, and then a lot of times it trickles down into altcoins. It's kind of the cycle.
Yeah.
So, will be interesting. You've heard crazy numbers. The Kathy Wood, like, I forget how many years away she thinks it's worth $1 million a piece. If the ETF volume continues like it has for a year, where are we at? I'm not saying we're going to be $1 million. Certainly not putting that out there, but right. I mean, to think that we're not at $250,000 doesn't seem all that outlandish, which to have a 4x increase from here does seem crazy in general. I guess S&P terms.
Right. But so if you think about that, if it goes to $1 million, you think about the market cap of that and the value of what that means versus like even where the US dollar is.
Right. I mean, often,
that's crazy comparison.
Right. And, my question is, do you want to be living in a world where Bitcoin's $1 million because the US dollar could have been debased so far that it's functionally worth the same it is today?
Yeah.
That is often left out in the discussions in crypto about like, he's going to these numbers. I'm like, okay, maybe, but what else is changing? Because this is not in isolation.
You're correct.
Yeah. So,
correct.
And if it is, good for you for holding it if you did. Most people don't have that kind of diamond hands, if you want to use the meme terminology.
Correct.
There's certainly the Bitcoiners are like never selling their Bitcoin. I'm like, then why are you in it if you're never selling it? Like, what are you going to do with it? I mean, I guess you could get loans against it and kind of live off of it that way, but like,
right. At some point you would have to liquidate, you would think.
Yeah. But it kind of takes us to a point that we have on here. The IRS does care about this stuff. They've cared about it for years, but the fourth question on the 1040 this year is, do you own crypto?
And what happens if you check yes?
Well, you better be honest. It's a tax return.
They just want to know at this point. It's a census,
right? In some sense, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you own crypto? And it's kind of like the question of, please tell us the amount of money you made from illegal activities on your tax return. That's how they get the mobsters, right? Like,
yeah, that's right.
So it's, I think they've bumped the question up. If I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago, it was 6th or 7th place. So it's becoming apparently more important,
more prominent.
Yeah. Cause doing taxes or calculating taxes in crypto can be very challenging especially if you're in the more esoteric stuff like DeFi, like that there's no tooling built up around it to help you calculate your taxes. So you're having to do spreadsheets manually, which stab my eyeballs out. I'm not interested in doing that.
Right. Especially if you have a lot of volume. Jeez.
Right. I mean, and it's not just like a single line item for a trade. A lot of times trades are broken into like thousands of pieces. So you have all these different lots that you have to deal with. Like it can be mind blowing on how much time goes into it to make your couple pennies that you're going to make whatever you're trading. So, but yeah, always pay your taxes on crypto.
All right. Well, thank you, Robert, for the update. We've got a couple other episodes that you might be interested in if you want to learn more about crypto. Episode 202, we actually talked about Bitcoin halving in the upcoming bull run, which I guess we kind of called that, didn't we?
Yeah,
you did. Episode 206, the ETF launch update is another crypto episode that we produced. And then we'll also link here to a couple of the articles we referenced. I think these are X links. We'll add those to the show notes as well. Anyway, thanks for listening today. Thanks for being on the podcast, Robert, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out.
This episode was produced by Edward Resendez.